Today our guest is Nathan Davis, and he is the Director of Operations in Mingledorff's company. I would say he's a pretty successful man. He has a family, he has a great job, and he's a great leader. And today I will ask him a few questions to uncover what's behind his success. So, Mr. Davis, I will ask a few questions in the beginning about you generally, about your family. You are from a pretty big family, right? You have 3 brothers and you had 4 sisters, correct?
Correct.
And only 2 of your siblings are actually from the same mother and father, and others like half brothers and sisters.
Correct.
So, will you tell me, please, how did your parents manage so many kids? It's like 8 kids with you all together. It's a pretty big family.
Well, initially it was a lot of kids, but since the children that my mom and dad had together were born later than the other kids, that there was, at the time when we were real young, a lot of the other older kids started phasing out and going, leaving the house. So, but regardless, it's tough for one kid to raise one kid versus a total of 8.
Yeah. So was there a point where actually all 8 kids were in the same time in the house?
No, only 7. There was a period of time when there were 7 in.
7.
But never the 8.
It's still a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you ever feel the difference between your half brothers and sisters and your actual brothers and sisters?
Not really, until everybody left, and it was just me and my 2 other full siblings together, since we were so far separated in age from the others. And then, when growing up, you do feel you obviously are around them more, so you feel closer to those siblings.
Okay, so do you think your parents really did a good job in managing all you together, all kids, like equal?
I think so. I probably was the most spoiled kid, although I wasn't spoiled by any means because we were so poor. But of course I was the youngest, so as time went on, more and more kids left, and of course they had more money to spend on just one kid versus 7. So in that sense I had a little bit more than some of the others, but we were still pretty doggone poor.
Okay, the most people think that like almost everybody in America is super rich.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying your family were poor. What does it mean that you were poor?
Not having much food in the refrigerator. Daddy worked 3 jobs. We got, I think, 1 pair of jeans a year, and we were lucky if we could afford a pair of shoes a year. And I would wear my shoes actually until my actual feet literally would be, my toes would be hanging out, and then usually we'd get secondhand stuff. So.
Okay, I got it. If you would be able to go back in time and give any kind of advice to your parents, what it would be?
I don't know. I have no idea what it would be.
Okay, do you regret about anything from your childhood that maybe you did to your siblings, something mean, and that you would like to change if you would have a chance?
No, I was a good kid growing up. You probably ask my brothers, and probably Mark and up. So.
How good you are.
Well, as far as, if you should ask them that question, if there's anything they can take back.
Okay. Well, from your perspective, were you
No, I
like
didn't do
really
anything. I was a good
friendly between each
Yes.
other?
Yeah,
So you were
I think
close.
so.
Okay, do you still stay close with your siblings?
Not really. Just really, I guess maybe 1 or 2, and that's it.
What do you
Although I
think
do
is the
try to-
reason why, while you were kids, you were close, and now when you grow up, you kind of...
Because we have different objectives in life. We've led different lifestyles and want different things, and just when I was growing up, even from a very young age, I wanted to do something in my life, and others didn't. And not, I mean, some of them had pipe dreams of, you know, I'm going to strike it rich on the lottery. But for the most part, most of my siblings are somewhat trashy, and so that I didn't want to be like that. So, you know, not that I deliberately tried to stray away from them, but I wanted to stay away from all the negativity and all the bad thoughts about other people, and you know, it's I heard multiple times, I'm so unlucky. But growing up, you know, the opportunities that some of them had, they didn't take advantage of, whereas I did, as far as different schools and stuff.
Okay, so what do you think helped you to be different from other siblings? Why they didn't took these opportunities and you did?
You know, I don't know. I've got a different mindset than most all of them. And then the biggest influence for me was my father. And I was lucky to have him because he was, you know, my father is, for people my age in their 40s, my father would be the age of their grandfathers. And so I kind of grew up out of a generation. I should have been born like in the 50s or something versus the 70s. So I'm really there's a generational gap. So I was lucky as far as learning the values from my father directly because I was really, really close to my father out of all the children.
What
was
those values that you learned?
One of the, do it regardless of what happens to you or what the consequences are. You do the right thing regardless of what happens at all times. And there's not, although in today's day and age, people try to gray everything, everything's in a gray area. What's right's right and what's wrong's wrong, as long as you have a good moral compass. But just, do the right thing, make sure that he taught me some leadership qualities too, but just be a good person, be a productive member of society, work hard, and you'll get ahead.
What you appreciated the most in time when you were spending time with your dad? What did you appreciate the most?
Just learning from him and his deep love of the country and how much he cared for the country and how much he wanted the country to do good. And just his respect for others and how he felt about other people. Everybody wasn't a piece of garbage. He was very, although sometimes Daddy came off as a real hard-nosed person, he was actually very compassionate. He was extremely conservative, but he's also very compassionate. He knew that there were people who had mental problems or just, people just had problems in general because he grew up, very, very dirt poor, in the 20s. So always, people back then had more respect for each other than they do now these days.
What was the way he was teaching you or passing you experience or passing you these values that he had? We'd talk a lot. I spent a lot of time with him in the car visiting relatives that were even older than him. And just stories he would tell from when he was younger, how the country was back then, how it was more of a community versus what it's become now, which is it's every man for themselves. Just stories and just telling me about his life when he was growing up and his family and how everybody helped each other out. And you just don't have that anymore. So it was stories, and also, as I understood, you were visiting family members,
Mm-hmm.
as you said. So he was staying close and connected to his family.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this played a big role too in your values?
It made, I don't know if it played a role in my values, but it did make a big impact on me as far as them reinforcing basically what Daddy had told me, outside of their presence.
Mm-hmm.
Because they all had a very shared common value, and that generation of my father, and around that age were known as the greatest generation of Americans that have ever lived, which I somewhat dispute. I think the founders.
What years it
yeah.
was?
Basically, the kids born in the 20s, the teens, 20s, and 30s, mostly the tens, in the teens and 20s.
So actually, it was the
1900s.
time when America wasn't as prosper, I would say,
Yeah.
as in
Mostly
our-
everybody was very poor sharecroppers, agriculturally based. It was just so. There was a Great Depression in the 30s in the United States, but for those outside of the big cities of New York, everybody was pretty much farmers, so they really didn't feel an impact like the people in the city. That they, for all intents and purposes, didn't even know there was a depression around because that's how they lived. That's how they lived for decades. So.
So would you say it's kind of like the stability of their lifestyle impact or?
I don't know if it's stability. It's you grow up in a city, you grow up out in the woods, having to farm, be dependent on yourself, grow crops, raise cattle, raise pigs, chickens, and feed yourself and make everything from scratch. You become more self-reliant, more independent-minded, and also you become more strong-minded because you know what's got to be done and you just do it. In a city, a lot of those services are provided for you for a fee. So, although they had, so basically there was a lot of trading going on in the agricultural communities. For example, Daddy and his family, they had sugar cane, and they would make sorghum, which is made from sugar cane, if I'm not mistaken, and they would trade it for flour. There wasn't a lot of money out in the agricultural areas of the United States back then. There just wasn't. I mean, everybody was farmers pretty
to
much.
get what you need.
You had to be what?
Creative to get what you need.
Not creative. I mean, you bartered, and money wasn't worth as much as it was in the city. And that's another thing. When you have big cities like that, you start having a lot of people together. And it doesn't necessarily, and just because they're closer doesn't mean they're more reliant on each other. I think it's just the exact opposite. If you have people in the agricultural communities, they actually have to be more reliant on each other, be more neighborly because they depend on people. They're not close to, they weren't close to emergency services or whatever like people were in the city. Not that there was a proliferation of that in the cities either, but so.
Okay. Thank you. We will make a quick pause and we will continue. When you were 13, you left the house
Mm-hmm.
and you went to military school.
Yep.
And whose decision was?
It was mine. I wanted to go.
Okay, why did you want to go? Why did you want to leave the house in the
There were
first
two
place?
main reasons.
Why military school?
The number one reason that I wanted to go is because it was the only Marine Corps military high school in the nation, the only one of its kind, very, very unique. And Daddy was a retired Marine. He had fought in World War II and Vietnam. One of my other brothers was in the Marine Corps. And anyway, Daddy, just the Marine Corps to me is the best branch of all the military. And I wanted to be the best in whatever I did. But I wanted to go into the Marine Corps also, but that later changed. The second reason I wanted to leave was to get away from my mother. So I won't go into too deep about that, but just wanted to get, I was the only one left in the house. My sister had already graduated school, and I was the only one left. I'm 4 years younger than her, so the burden of whatever Mama, was making all of us do now laid squarely on my shoulders. So.
Okay, so you wanted some freedom, and why was
No,
military
it
school?
wasn't
it
freedom.
because-
I didn't get any freedom when I got to military school.
Oh, okay.
There was no freedom. The only freedom we had, the first 3 months, there was no freedom because we were in a little boot camp. And we couldn't go anywhere on the weekends or anything until we graduated at boot camp for the first 3 months. And whatever after that, the only freedom you had was to go on liberty Friday night for a few hours and Saturday for all day and then Sunday for a few hours. So it really wasn't about freedom. It was about just being a better person, making something of myself.
How did you find out about that school? At that time, there were no internet, so.
Yeah, Daddy told me about it several years prior to that, maybe when I was 9 or 10 years old. Because I'd always been interested in the military, even when I was younger, just because of everybody around me. But Daddy was offered a job. Daddy was contacted when they first opened up in '69, I think. It was in the '60s they opened up. But Daddy was contacted and was offered a job to be a drill instructor there, and he turned it down. So when Daddy told me about it, and he told me about it sometime in the mid to late '80s, and then when I was 13 years old, I asked him if he could find out information about it, and he found it. So, and then sent me there.
Mhm. Okay. How was you feeling about leaving the house? How was it? You went to a completely different state, and you're only 13. It's kind of young age still.
I was excited. I was excited to prove myself that this little skinny kid from Alabama could go, I was out to prove myself what my capabilities were.
So, did you prove yourself, and how did you do that?
Yes, I did. So the first year I actually entered the Marine Military Academy in 10th grade for my 10th grade year. Prior to actually entering the school, Daddy wanted to send me to a summer camp, which was a month, just to make sure that I liked it. And so that was kind of like a boot camp in and of itself. So I really enjoyed that. So when I came back home to Mobile, I already knew. I mean, I knew when I first got there I wanted to go back. So the first year I came in as a plebe, and that's when you get the 3-month boot camp. I kind of already had a leg up on a lot of the stuff because I was in the summer camp. But the first year was kind of rough. I'm the kind of person that, I guess for lack of a better term, I know where my place is. So I was a private when I was first going in, of course. And anyway, I eventually got to a lance corporal or whatever by the end of the year, which is only like 2 levels up. And so I was quiet. I'm the kind of person that observes a lot and just learns and everything. And I never really try to take authority when it's not mine to have. So anyway, I took a lot of crap from some of the older cadets that year. Just follow my orders, do what I was supposed to do. And so the second year, I came home for the second year, and I finally got cadet of the month, the very last month of the first year, because I really wanted to be cadet of the month. So I finally got that. And when I came back the second year, I was at the airport in Mobile, and I knew they were going to finally put me in a position of some sort of authority. I was going to be still a lance corporal, but I was going to be a fire team leader, which is right below the squad leader. And so right before I got on that plane, I looked at Daddy and I told him, I said, "Daddy, this year I ain't taking shit from nobody." So when I got to school, that's exactly what I did. And that meant from the other cadets as well. When I said I'm not going to take any shit, I'm not going to take any bullshit from them. If I knew they were in the wrong, they were in the wrong. And anyway, so I just, I did a really good job setting the example for my fire team leader. I actually, that first month, I got cadet of the month again. So basically back-to-back months in school years. And they put me in, by the end of the first semester, the second quarter, because I was so hard on my squad. They recognized how hard I was on my squad, and they knew I didn't abuse it though. I wasn't hazing anybody, but I was really rough on them. As far as you're going to do it, you're going to do it right, and if they messed up, they would pay for it. Mm-hmm. So, but I would be there right along with them. That's part of setting the example, being a leader, and so by the end of the semester, we have what we call midterms of plebes, which they would come in, to start of the third semester. Well, because they knew how well I could develop people as quickly as I did, they put me in charge of every single one of those people. And so of course, the remainder of the year went on, it was really rare to be constantly get ranked up. And so by the end of the year, I had ranked up all the way. I remember at the beginning of the year, I was basically a PFC, and I ranked all the way up to staff sergeant for that year, for my second year. In addition to that, the drill instructor and the company commander at the time brought me in and knew I was the right person to take over the company because I wanted to be company commander. And so I catapulted way above people that had been there 2-3 years in that school, in that company, and anyway, jumped in and was company commander for the following year.
So you showed pretty impressive leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like natural skills, or did you develop them at some point?
I developed them. I developed them. I really, to this day, I still actually follow the Marine Corps leadership principles. I like to set the example, lead by example, know yourself, seek self-improvement, be tactful, basically take care of your people. Just things like, there's a list, I think, of 10 or 11 of them. So I still have that list today, and I try to live my life by that. But they were, for the most part, developed.
So where did you get this? Was this list with you in the academy?
Yeah, they actually gave us the Marine Corps handbook for the cadets. It's actually the one that issued to Marines like Parris Island and San Diego. But I really took those to heart. And then, of Daddy talking to me all the years, and that kind of reinforced all that. But they were definitely developed. It wasn't something that came natural to me. So and the basis of that was Daddy always saying, do the right thing regardless of what the consequences. If I got my ass kicked or whatever, keep doing it, and you'll never go wrong. So that was really the basis. From that point, then I took all the leadership principles and used it going forward.
Okay, so what besides the leadership skills, what other skills that you developed during studying in this military school you still may be using, or that maybe helped you to succeed and to reach this position?
I still do. I used them throughout my entire life. It was only until someone finally gave me the opportunity after getting out of military school to be in a position of authority, because I was never one to actually abuse my authority. Number one, it wasn't right to do, and number two, it's just that's just not me. I don't really have an ego. And plus I came up from very humble beginnings. So, but yeah, I still use them to this day. Actually, I just looked at them a few weeks ago again, just kind of look over them. I'm not saying I haven't slipped up from time to time. And one of the things I don't like most is leading, as far as that I haven't been able to keep up with the best, is lead by example. But there's things I just can't do anymore physically to lead by example. So yeah, I still use them today, and I credit that school for making me as successful as I am today, which is moderately successful.
Mm-hmm. After you finished the school, what was your first job?
Well, I went to school at the University of Alabama, and then I worked at Harco? I think it was Harco. I worked at a drugstore. Yeah, the summer I got out of military school, I worked at a drugstore. It's called Harco in Tillman's Corner. I worked there during the summer, then I went off to college.
As a cashier?
Cashier, yeah, cashier, stock boy, just about anything you can imagine I do.
What was the worst job you had? Like
selling cars.
What did you hate about the job?
When I I worked there for 3 months. There was a couple things. I didn't like working every day for 10 to 12 hours. And then the biggest thing, which basically was the icing on the cake, and that's when I just threw my hands up and said I quit, was when they told us to lie about something. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna do that. So I was like, I'm not gonna work for people like this. So that's when I was like, I'm done.
So when you were choosing where to go to work, where apply, what was leading you? What was helping you to choose the job? What was the principles maybe that you used?
I just wanted a job. There were no principles to it. I just needed a job to make money.
Anything that would.
Yeah. I tried multiple different things. I was a warrants clerk for the sheriff's department for a year. I'm just trying to try pressure washing for a little while.
When did you discover in which field you actually feel that this is it? This is something you want to do.
I can't say that was like that for the HVAC industry, which I've been in now for 13, 14 years. It was just I was looking for a job and I was looking for an opportunity, and I knew whichever opportunity would come along that I had something to offer, and that if I worked hard and did the right thing and looked out, for the people around me in the company itself, that I would be recognized for my talents.
So, what was your position when you started in WHC company?
I started just taking orders from people calling in on the phone or coming up to the counter and just booking orders, filing papers.
And what helped you to move to being the director of operations?
Because they saw how eager I was to learn everything I could. They saw even the two people that were there in the sales order, they told the guy who hired me that I wouldn't work out. I didn't know that until about a year later, but within a week they knew that they were wrong, because whenever they would be doing something, I'd be constantly asking them, what can I do? Give me something to do. Give me something, tell me what to do. Give me something to do. I was just very eager to learn. I was very eager to help, be a team player. And then so that, after a while, that was recognized. And also, I wanted things to be done right and as perfect as possible. So that was, people recognized that, some of the management there. So then I was put in charge of a lot of stuff. And that's kind of what led to the operations job here at Mingledorff's. But anyway, because they recognized how eager I was, and that they knew they didn't have to worry about something being done and being done correctly, they started piling a lot on me. Too much, honestly. And that's a bad leadership trait right there. Because he was going the path of least resistance. He knew that I was going to do what I was told to do because he was my boss, while everybody else was sitting there going out taking 30 smoke breaks a day. I'm having to sprint to the bathroom just to use the restroom and sprint back. Literally sprinting means running fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so because he was too scared to make the other people do their jobs, because he didn't like confrontation, and I don't like confrontation.
Was it about confrontation, or maybe he didn't trust them?
I think it was more of confrontational with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He knew I was going to do it, because I would do everything I could to help the company and do a good job, and really, I had a real desire to help customers too. I've always been really customer focused for whatever reason. So I did that, and then finally, after about 2.5 years, I left there to another job in the HVAC industry, a competitor, where they paid me more money on the counter, inside sales. And then I went from the counter to outside sales to another HVAC company, and then I said, okay, I'm done. I said, if I'm leaving, if I have to leave this company, I'm getting out of the HVAC industry. I said, if Mingledorff comes in He buys out Equipment Sales, which was the company I originally started. I said, I'd be great if they'd make me the operator. That's the only way I'd jump ship again. And that's what happened.
So what would be your advice to people in how to become a leader and how to be a successful leader? To be the leader not out of the position, but to be a true leader. To actually lead
you gotta have certain qualities, and if you don't have those, you gotta develop them, and it's at times really uncomfortable developing. But I mean, you can start kind of like I did. You do the right thing, regardless of what may or may not happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
That way, you'll always feel good about yourself. But then, you just use common sense. You could, there's a lot of stuff on the internet you can search. For me, the Marine Corps leadership principles, that's basically what I've led my life on since 13.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You helped the district of the company you work for to increase sales from 21 million to 61 million in a very short amount of time, and in the time when a lot of people were saying it's a crazy crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you do that?
Well, you start off with the leadership principle. So no one wanted that job down there. It was the Gulf Coast district. There were multiple people that were already in the company when they bought out Equipment Sales, which was the company I originally started my career in. I already knew the problems. I knew very well what the problems were, and which was why I, along with multiple other people, had left that company. Me more so than anything, because the guy who was in charge of Equipment Sales for the operations side had me doing a lot of what he was supposed to be doing.
So that's how you learned about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful in that respect that I touched so many different things. What was the question again?
How did you do this?
How did I increase sales? So,
yes.
Okay, so when Mingler came by out of Equipment Sales, no one wanted the job because it was, when you first start a business, you start at zero and you work your way up. Equipment Sales had such a horrible reputation. We started in a negative. So I knew that was going to be a challenge. So I wanted the challenge. It was kind of a pride thing to show the people that own Equipment Sales how they messed up by not letting me utilize me in a better way. But basically, I knew we had a little time. I kind of knew a lot of the employees still there, which ones were dirtbags, which ones weren't. However, as a leader, you want to give people, first you got to give them clear instructions on how things need to be, and you got to give them some time to adjust and give them an opportunity to actually do it the right way. If they can't do it the right way, you got to get rid of them, regardless of how uncomfortable it is. So, that went on for, I had to end up firing a lot of people because number one, they weren't customer focused. They didn't really care about, the company. And some of them are just bad people, just bad people in general. But nevertheless, I'm always I really enjoy developing people and seeing them go on and improve their lives, which I have in many cases. But number one was the employees. You got to concentrate on employees. If you want to change any company, you got to change the employees or develop the existing employees that are there. And I did that by following, once again, the Marine Corps leadership principles. You got to treat your people right as much as possible, but you got to balance that with the company. You can't just give them all kinds of money and not expect them to perform. So if you treat them right and genuinely care about them, and you've got to have the ability to genuinely care about how their lives are going, a lot of people eventually come around and see that actually what you're trying to do is right and what you're trying to develop. But you also if you tell them something needs to be done, you also got to follow up and make sure they do it. Make sure they know it's going to be inspected later. And if they don't, you got to give them the opportunity to fail. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't fail, and you never have that opportunity to basically, say, do it, do it now. You got to be willing to say, do it, sometimes. Prefer not to do that, but sometimes you got to. And Anyway, so you focus on employees.
You mean let them take responsibility?
Correct.
for-
You've got to be able to delegate. You've got to allow people. You can't micromanage people. There's some people think that's the best way of doing it. You can't do it. That creates all kinds of problems. But you got to give them the ability to learn and grow, in their own way. Your role, my role there was kind of what I wanted my role to be was kind of directing that correct direction. If they just couldn't do it, then again you had to get rid of them and replace them with people that are more, that you can more mold and shape into what you want them to be.
Okay, and probably a few last questions from professional life back to your family life. Do you use your leadership skills in managing your relationship? And if you do, with whom you use it the most?
I try to, but my wife, your wife, you really can be really hard. But the kids definitely. You want to try to make sure you're doing what they're supposed to do. And no one's perfect, but it's really difficult for a spouse to use those with other spouse.
But okay, would you say it is a good thing to try use your professional leadership skills in your family to manage? Can you kind of compare
Your children,
building business
yes.
and building relationship in family?
It's all applicable. It's just how the spouse takes it. So I don't know how to answer that one. Definitely, you want to use that for the children, and you want to try to use some of it for the spouse. But
It may work, may not. Okay.
Because I'm not. The spouse is not the boss of the other spouse. Whereas
So
you
it's
don't have
actually
authority.
partnership.
Yes, exactly.
So what then will you use instead of being boss? What is it actually to be a good partner? And what is partnership to you?
Well, you should discuss stuff. For the most part, everything should be 50-50. One spouse should respect the wishes of the other spouse. Unless they discuss and come to a conclusion differently, but try not to be too emotional on things. So
It's a good point. Try to not to be too emotional. I guess a lot of people kind of get in trouble in their relationship because of too much emotions or not being able to control their emotions. Do you agree?
you should be more rational when it comes to relationship. I do a lot of self-reflection.
Okay, probably the last question. Do you think it is, what would you say is the best way to stay a hard professional at work and be kind of understanding and maybe more soft spouse in a relationship? Is it even manageable?
I'm sure it is, but you're asking the wrong person for advice on that. You need to go talk to somebody else about that one.
Okay.
I don't have any advice on that one.
Okay, and last question, just for fun. If you would some way become invisible, what would you do?
Probably spy on a lot of people.
For what?
I would probably spy on all these people trying to destroy America, get their secrets out.
Okay. Well, thank you very